Okay, everybody, welcome to yet another Nova Scribes. I'm Brian Tarallo. This is part of our Retooling You series on helping you launch your facilitated practice. Today, we're going to be talking about energizers. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. Now, before we do anything else, I want to share that what I think is the criteria for good energizers. All right, so let's do this. By the way, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to be using my screen as pretty much a glorified flip chart. So I'm assuming that a lot of you visual practitioners out there are also natural note takers, that's your learning style. Go ahead and follow along, take some notes. So here's some criteria for energizers. All right. I think a good energizer accomplishes three things. First of all, it builds trust. Okay. So it builds trust in the room, and the way that it does that is that it shares a little bit of what's going on for people, a little bit of revelation, personally and in a safe way. And by the way, if I mute you, it's not personal, it's just I'm picking up some background noise. You can always unmute yourself. Trust and vulnerability are two sides of the same coin. I'm not going to get too deep into it. If you're curious, read Brene Brown. She talks a lot about that stuff. But the idea is that if you get somebody to reveal something personal about themselves, you are building trust. You're modeling that trusting behavior. Now, of course, you can take this too far. I once went to an offsite where the facilitator said, okay, turn to the person sitting next to you that you just met and share your most embarrassing moment. That is bad facilitation. Don't ever, 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 ever do something like that. The container wasn't there. The safety wasn't there. But a little bit of revelation, I think, personal revelation goes a long way. So you're revealing something about the individual. Second thing that it does is that it models the modality. That's very, very fancy talk. When we say modality, we're talking about the things that we do in the room. Okay? That's another way of saying the activity, the thing that shows up on the agenda. And when I say models the modality, you could think of this almost like a tutorial, or like when you first start a video game for you gamers out there. First, we're going to teach you how to run and jump, and then, eventually you'll get to the place where you're trying to save the princess, whatever that is, right? In our case, it would be, let's assume for a second that like later on in the offsite or the workshop, we're going to need people to draw because we're doing some sort of design thinking thing and they have to sketch out some ideas. Well, a good way to do that, to get them ready for that modality, is to have them to use the Energizer. Use the Energizer as a safe tutorial for whatever else is coming next. So whatever that is, if it's speaking aloud, writing something, drawing something, using a flip chart, modeling something with, kinesthetic toys, whatever that is, the Energizer is a great, safe, low stakes way of modeling the modality that they're going to need later. Okay. Before you have them pick up markers and draw out their big strategic initiative, have them draw their neighbor. Okay. So model the modality. The third thing is it should do what we call psychologically priming. Okay. And this is reinforcing the outcome of why you're there. So understanding the purpose of your offsite. Let's say it's a team building. Okay, you get people together, you're going to do a team building. Picking something like, pick an image that represents the best team that you were ever a part of, okay? Or pick an image, let's say you're doing some strategic planning, pick an image that represents what unbridled success looks like on the part of your organization. That's a great one, okay? But the idea here is that it's going to be in some way related back to the successful outcome of your meeting. If you're not doing this last one, you're just playing a game, okay? One of the things that drives me crazy are questions, energizers that are like, hey, what's your favorite breakfast cereal? Okay, it might be good to know, it might build trust, but it's like, what does that have to do with why we're here? That stuff drives me bananas, right? It should have some sort of connection back to the purpose of the meeting. By the way, when I'm talking about psychological priming, this is really about putting people in the correct mindset for where you want them in order to be successful. So for example, let's see, I think I did this with one person. It didn't work very well. Let's see, Mary Jo, help me out with this. Could you go off mute for a second? Okay. So I'm not trying to fool you. Okay. This is just like we're going to have a conversation here. What color is snow?
White, but
Yep, you're overthinking it. You're
oh
overthinking
shoot, white,
it. White, perfect. Okay. What color are clouds?
white,
Okay, excellent. What color are marshmallows?
white.
Amazing. What do cows drink?
Nothing. Water.
Okay, so she got it there because she was really thinking, like her brain was really, you could see the wheels were turning. How would most people respond to that though?
Grass.
Actually, what did most people drink?
Milk.
Milk, right? Because you're priming them with the idea of this white thing, okay? And it kind of gets into into the back of their brains. So what we're doing, thank you, Mary Jo, you're amazing. I appreciate you coming off mute. So when we're talking about psychological priming, we're talking about asking the right things to get people in the mindset of success, okay? Everybody good on that one? Any questions about these three? You know, you've picked an energizer, you're gonna go through these three. By the way, before we get started, one last caveat, and then we will jump into these energizers. We're gonna hit them hard, we're gonna go fast. But before we do that, there is one thing that I have to say, otherwise I would be remiss. For all of these reasons, there is one energizer I would like you to strike from your repertoire. Never use this again. If you use this again, and we've had this discussion, you're no friend of mine, right? That's it, we're done. I want nothing to do with you. That is two truths and a lie, okay? That is, yeah, so Hermika's flipping out. So on every level, two truths and a lie. First of all, it doesn't build trust, okay? You are priming people to, number one, lie to each other, but number two, look for deception, which I think is even worse. If you're trying to pull people together in a trusting environment, if you're creating psychological safety, trust has got to be a part of that. Don't kick it off by saying, hey, lie to the person standing next to you. That's a terrible idea. I mean, I've seen facilitators do this, and as soon as they do that, I'm like, okay, you're an amateur, and I want nothing to do with you. I might give them a little gentle coaching. Hey, what were we trying to achieve there with two truths and a lie, right? Okay, enough about that. Let's get to work. Here we go. So I'm going to jam through these as quickly as we can. Now, some of these are going to be visual, some of these are not. I'm going to attribute the ones that I know. If I don't attribute it, it means I don't know where it came from. I need a volunteer for this one. Who's willing to go off mute? Again, I'm never going to shame you. I'm never going to embarrass you. You're going to look great. Who would be my partner on this one? I need a buddy. All you got to do is go off mute, and I know you're my person. Okay, one person. Hey, all right, I saw Bruce first. Bruce, you're it, okay? Bruce and I are going to model something called two-word conversations. We are limited to two-word sentences back and forth. By the way, my daughter invented this one, okay? So you have a topic of shared interest. And Bruce, just because it's the 4th of July, like tomorrow, let's have a two-word conversation about our plans. Sound good? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Plans tomorrow?
Not really.
Any ideas?
Two words. Go fair.
Go fair. Sounds fun.
It can be 3 words.
You want to redo that?
I have to redo it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe.
Yes, maybe. Where at?
Few blocks
Near you?
near me.
Favorite food?
Fine dining.
At fair?
Not really.
Fair food?
Corn dogs.
Amazing. Okay, then we'll I don't know if corn dog is hyphenated or one word or whatever, but there you go. Hey, everybody, big hand for Bruce. Bruce, you're amazing. Way to be. Okay, so two-word conversations. Now, you all do the work for me. We have to tie this back to purpose. We have to tie this back to the outcome. Otherwise, it's just a game, and we don't have time for that, right? So why might you want to do two-word conversations? What are you priming there? What are the behaviors? What did Bruce and I have to do to make that one successful? And just go ahead and go off mute, call it out. Why might you want to do two-word conversations? Yeah. So we'll do May and then Julie.
To get people quick and precise.
Okay, so to get people quick and precise. All right. Why else? Julie.
No, similar, but to cut to the chase, like really look at the big ideas.
Yeah. So, Bruce, let me ask you a question. So what did you have to do? What were some of the behaviors that you had to draw on in order to be successful there? And then Hermika, I'll get you.
I had to think. I had to actually draw from our resources, and I had criteria. I had constraints. Now, always when we facilitate, there are constraints. So I had to do I had to pick the best words for what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So thank you, Bruce. So this is a great one for modeling concise, brief, clear communication with folks, which in a facilitation is valuable. We've got somebody that, decides to just speak all, and that happens, but people just sort of like talk all over everything. It can be a bit of a challenge. Hermika, did you see something in there?
What is also important is foundationally, it requires you to participate and listen, because as
Yes.
I'm responding, I'm listening to hear what you're really saying versus coming up with a response just randomly. I'm connecting
Exactly.
the dots.
Yeah, you have to be completely present and in the moment, so you're modeling active listening. Bruce was not thinking about his grocery list at that moment, right? He was completely there and with me. So he's modeling good listening and good presence. All right, so that's 2-word conversations. It's a quick one. Let's do another one. So if you've got something to draw on, you're in the right place. This one's called 30 circles, okay? And so what you do here is there's a couple different variations, but you just draw a circle, okay? I like to say make it about the size of an orange. And then you can say, all right, let's turn this into a symbol of why we're here, okay? So this gets back to the purpose motive of the meeting. So in our case, this is Nova Scribes, Retooling yoU. Hopefully this is about learning. Maybe draw a symbol of learning. Okay. And you spend no more than a couple of seconds on this. Okay, who would like to share their symbol of learning? Who's got one? Okay, Brian, you go first. Thank you, Brian. All right, so I drew a little guy with his mind getting expanded, and there's stars and actions and stuff coming off of there. Okay. Who else has got a symbol of learning? So they don't mind sharing for the camera. Bruce, you got one? Let's see it. What do you got?
It's very simple. It's just an arrow going into the circle.
Amazing. Thank
So
you
it's
very much.
iterative.
Yeah. Let's do one more. Can we do one more symbol of? May, go for it.
Yeah. Well, it's not, oh, I have to turn, it's a brain with things coming out of it.
A brain with things
Sunshine
coming out of
brain.
it. Oh, cool. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so kind of close to what I've got here. All right, so what 30 circles does is, well, actually, let me ask you, what did you get out of this one? What did you see here? May, just because you're off mute? All right,
I'm
Karen.
still off mute.
Yeah, go for it.
I think there's still presence, like you're tactily and mentally engaged. But then also, yeah, having to kind of narrow into a key thought.
Totally. So you have to simplify. It's got a constraint around it. Karen, did you have a thought?
Yeah, helping everybody focus on why they're there. Sometimes we don't start
Yes.
with that.
Getting back to
Mm.
purpose, outcome, like
Yes.
why are we here? Yeah, going back
Yeah.
to the individual. Now, functionally, what you do in the room is, presumably people draw this on a sticky note or whatever, but you put them up on a board, and now you got a gallery of these things that you can refer back to. Okay, you've got something like a physical Pinterest board that's there. Now, I want to give you a quick caveat on this one. This one comes from Bob McKim. Okay, Bob McKim. And he's actually at the Stanford D School. I heard about it from Casey Creech. There's a slightly different method than the one that I did. In that case, you actually pass out a full sheet of paper that has 30 circles on it, and you give people 3 minutes to turn them into pictures and icons. And then you do a debrief, like, did anybody draw outside the lines? Do we all have smiley faces? You figure out what that is. I find that to be just a little bit onerous and a little, that's kind of got some high friction to it. It's like, oh my gosh, there's 30 of these things. I got to come up with stuff. I like to keep it to one. You know, I think that's just about what people can tolerate. All right, so that one's called 30 Circles with a little bit of a, you know, Brian twist on it. Let's do another one. So this one's called Animal Names. This one comes from Sherry Kennedy. Animal names. Okay, so you're going to write the first letter of your name. So go ahead and write the first letter of your name. And then, however you want to, you're going to turn it into an animal. I'm not going to cheat and use the one that I already had. So however you want to, you turn it into an animal. Let's see. Okay. Got to be the worst camel anybody's ever drawn. All right. Then you add the rest of your name to it. So I'll find that B and go Brian. Okay. So you add the rest of your name to it. And then you say, I'm like a blank because blank. So I'll give you a second to think about that. I didn't think about this until this very moment. I did not pre-script this one. So I'll go first. My name is Brian. I am like a camel because I took a 19-mile hike the other day on the Appalachian Trail, and it was ripping hot, and I was really, really thirsty by the time we were done. So that's what's coming up for me. Endurance, I think, is something I got. Who would like to share theirs? And it's cool if you don't want to, but if you want to, go ahead and go off mute. It's perfectly okay if you'd rather keep this one to yourself. Yeah, okay, hair makeup, amazing. Go for it. What do you got?
Oh, I can't show it. Hold on. So attempted, H is a really hard thing and to figure out from an animal. I didn't want to draw a snake per se, but I drew an eagle.
Oh, nice.
Well, well,
Yay.
maybe it looks like a phoenix, but and I chose an eagle because this session is going to require me to have very sharp eyes and be able to see all of the details, but also at a high level as well. And even though I'm not a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I must say that inspires me as well. So go Eagles, Philly folks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hermika. Okay. So we'll zoom out on this one. So this one is all about that first criteria of self-revelation, right? It's about like, here's who I am, here's how I'm coming into the room. The other thing that I like about this one from Sherry Kennedy, who's got amazing energizers. The other thing that I like about this one is that it does a little bit of sense making. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, but it's the idea of you put something abstract out there, something totally random, and then you have your participants draw a connection to that thing, whatever it is. So in this case, why are you like a camel? I don't know why I'm like a camel, but well, if you did know, what would you say? Well, because endurance or whatever, because of sharp eyesight. That connection, that sense making, that is psychological priming. Getting people into the mindset of how do we find these connections so that we can be successful in whatever we're doing in the room. Okay, you doing good? Should we keep going? Let's keep going. All right, here's an easy one, and I say an easy one because it requires no marks on paper. It's called appreciation awards. Okay, appreciation awards. So you have people grab a piece of paper. Usually it can be like a big sticky, one of the big ones, like a 5x7 or whatever, 6x8 even. And then the first thing you do is you say, all right, at the top, you write two. By the way, you model this on a flip chart so that they're getting it right. 2 blank from blank in appreciation of blank. Okay. And the first thing you have them do, well, that's the first thing you have them do. The second thing you have them do is to say, all right, write your name where it says to. It goes Brian. Okay. Like that. And then, the next thing you have them do is you say, okay, give it a border. You can make it fancy if you want to, so that it looks kind of like a certificate. It can be really, really quick and dirty, just like that. And you're modeling this on a flip chart so that people know that, they do not have to, be a fine artist in order to make this thing work. But the idea here is that, okay, during the time that we have together over the course of whatever it is, 4 hours of the day, the week that we're together at this offsite, what we want you to do is to identify somebody that you appreciate. Watch each other's behavior. So like Hermika, I love how you jumped in there with doing the animal names. So Hermika, in appreciation of how she did animal names. Okay. And then over the course of our time together, just kind of like quietly hand them the appreciation award. Okay. So that's the baseline for how to do appreciation awards. There's another way that you can do it. And how that works is it to make sure that everybody gets one. Because this way, not everybody necessarily gets one. Everybody might appreciate Hermika, and nobody would appreciate Mary Jo. It would never happen. Mary Jo's amazing, but that could happen in this particular format. So another way that you do it is you say, okay, same setup. You write to your name from blank in appreciation of, and then you post these around the room. Okay. So these are all out there. Oh, I just realized I mixed it up the other way that I did it, right? So the way that I did it with Hermika, it should have been from Brian to Hermika. Hopefully you guys are smarter than I am. But in this case, if I write to me, to my name, and it goes up there, then, Hermika at a quiet moment, she can grab this, and she appreciates, hopefully, how I recover from a bad prompt, like the one that I just did a second ago. Yeah. So anyway, if these are all posted, then you can guarantee that everybody gets one. Just to be clear, the way that I set it up the first time, I would say the first thing you do is you write from, sorry, screwed it up again, Brian, and then to Hermika for animal names. Okay. Cool. You probably have some questions because that was not a great instruction. Questions, queries about this one before we move on quickly. Yeah, Hermika, what's going on?
So, I've seen this when some people don't offer any appreciation for themselves or others at all. How do you encourage participation, or do you explore that, or do you just move on?
So first of all, if they're all posted up there with somebody's name on it, right? Somebody in the room, and by the way, you can grab more than one, right? So somebody in the room will feel bad for the one person who didn't have their name pulled, right? So everybody's going to get an appreciation, but what you're saying is that what about the people that don't express appreciation? Well, we could have a long conversation around empathy, right? Or lack of empathy if you wanted to. But the way that I'd like to do it in the room when I'm facilitating is I like to recognize the people who are not there. Hey, thank you very much for taking the time to come out to this offsite. You're here because you have people behind you that are covering for you. Oftentimes these people don't hear appreciation for us. So another thing that you can do, and I'll do this, is I'll just bring blank thank you cards and sprinkle them around the room. And I'll name it and I'll say, hey, in addition to everything else that we're doing today, grab a couple of those thank you cards. Take a moment, write an appreciation for somebody that enabled you to be here. Okay.
I love that.
I'm glad you dig it. That's cool. That particular one, this is a riff on a couple of people. One of them is Elise Yanker, and then actually Jim Nuttall was instrumental in putting this one together. Okay. All right, let's do another one. I love this one. So this is going to be a drawing together. So you're going to follow me, and this is Gumdrop People by Diane Bleck. Okay, so you've got your paper in front of you. Let's say it's about like this much space, okay? First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna draw a circle. It's about this big, okay? Relative to the paper, it's gonna be like that. So give me a circle. And then we're gonna do just a couple of kind of curved lines down or lines down, kind of angling that way. And then we're gonna connect the bottom like that with another line. And then about midway through, we're going to do another one like that. Okay. Off to the side, I'm going to do another couple of lines coming out of that corner and stopping right at about where that midline is. I'm going to do a couple of circles in here. Okay. Now, about 2/3 of the way between these two bottom lines, I'm going to draw a vertical line straight down. Like that. And by the way, I'm modeling this on a flip chart. People are drawing on a big sticky note, like one of those 5x7s or whatever. I'm going to do some nice wide McDonald's arches like this. And then I'm going to give my person a couple of little button eyes like that. And then I'm going to give this person a nice smile. Okay, I now have my baseline. I now have my template against which I'm going to encourage you all. I'm going to say, all right, now it's up to you to turn this into a self-portrait. So write your name at the top or the bottom, wherever you have space, and then turn this into a self-portrait, starting with this template. So in my case, I'm a little fuzzy around the lower face. I'm going to draw some, face lines. Lucky me, I don't have to worry about hair. So we'll just, keep them kind of high and tight like that. I have a fondness for collared shirts when I'm working. And especially for, pants with a whole bunch of pockets all over them so I can stick my markers. In fact, I'm going to have a couple of markers in my hand here. And then in the background, I'm going to draw some things that are important to me. So I just shared that, I was in the mountains this week. And I was there with my wife. So I'll put her and me together like that. She is taller than me. That is to scale. What else is important? Well, I've got my kids, so I'll put them over here. I do have 4 kids. It's not an error. And, other things that are important to me. I guess I'll put my dog in there. I like my dog. Okay. Now, in the room, I'd have people introduce themselves, using the gumdrop people. If it's a very, very large group, I'd have people do it at tables, okay? If it's a small group, then, we would just do a go around or a round robin where we would hear from everybody. Now, a couple variations on this. This is pretty much it. You could probably see for yourself what it does. There's a little bit of self-revelation there. We are modeling the modality of making marks on paper. So this is a good one if you've got people drawing later on. This works really well with a Grove team portrait. Okay, so let's say you draw the room, maybe it's like a horseshoe table. Here's our typical team portrait. One of the things that I really like to do is to have people do the gumdrop people as individual portraits. And then we slap them up here around the table. And now we've got our team portrait. So that goes like on a big wall chart so that, people can see who's in the room. So that's gumdrop people. I really like Diane's style. It has a way of, it's almost like and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's almost like a juvenile style. It's like very accessible, very non-threatening. And I really, really like her style. And I use gumdrop people all the time. Okay, any thoughts about this one before we move on? And I'll just keep jamming Energizers down your throats. You want to keep going? Yep, thumbs up. Okay, I got a heart and a thumbs up. We'll keep jamming. Here we go. All right, now this one's going to be a little tricky to do online. If somebody can crack how to do this one online, let me know. But here's the way that it works. You hand somebody, well, first of all, you have people sit back to back, and this is called back-to-back drawing. Okay, and the way that it works is that you have people sit back to back like this. Put a little chair in there, a little chair in there. And one person is given a very simple geometric shape. Okay, not something so simple like a square, but something that, you know, it's going to have 3, 4, 5 parts on it, something like this. Okay, like that. And that person has to describe that geometric shape while the other person, and you know where this is going, has to draw it. Okay, now this is a fun one because you can watch the assumed constraints start to poke out, right? One of the big ones is the drawer will be silent. That's not part of your instructions, but for whatever reason, they think that they can't ask questions, right? You know, they're not allowed to show the image that, you know, so I've had one really outside the box, you know, group do that. And I was like, well, okay, that's not bad. Not exactly the dynamic we were getting at. But, you know, you have them draw it and then you compare and then you pull them up to a place of objective observation and say, what behaviors did you have to draw on in order to make this thing work? Well, we had to be clear and ask, we had to, you know, orient, you know, the speaker had to, you know, really imagine what it was like to start with a blank page. You know, you get some really good named behaviors off that one. And what I like to do is just list those behaviors and say, hey, guess what? Each one of these things you're going to have to do going forward as we do our strategic planning offsite, as we do our design thinking offsite, as we do our leadership development offsite, or whatever it is, right? But those named behaviors are really handy, okay? So, you know, listening, asking questions, appealing to people, both visual or non-visual. And again, really dialing in on the clear communication on this one. Okay, any questions about this one before we move on? I like energizers that have multi-uses. And so let me show you the actual geometric shapes that I use. I have these just on index cards and I pass them out. Okay, here we go. Super. Did that work? Can you guys see these okay? So these are some of the geometric shapes, okay? You can do a screen grab of these if you want to. You know, I'll drop them into chat so that you can grab these, okay? Let me drop this in. I'll do this a little bit differently. Hang on just a second for me. So I'll drop these into chat so that you can, you know, you can make your own if you want to. Now, these actually have more than one use. You might notice that some of these things look like something, okay? This is actually from an old feature in the Sunday Funnies. It was called Droodles. If you're old enough, you might remember this one. If you were going to make up a story about this one, what does that look like to you? And feel free to go off mute. What does this one look like to you? Any thoughts? May, go for it.
I see a rainbow and then an elephant stepping on a peanut. So I'm not.
Okay, so we got a rainbow and then an elephant stepping on a peanut. Exactly. All right. So the idea here is that in Droodles, what you have people do is you give these cards, you have them do the back-to-back drawing, and then say, okay, make a story about this. Now, this is the sense making that we have to do. And if you don't think you need to do this in the room or in corporate life, you do, where you take something really abstract and like, what the hell is that thing, and turn it into something real, like a vision statement. Okay, where you take something like a corporate vision, you say, all right, what's the story behind this? Why are we moving our organization in this direction? So I'll give you the quick hit for these things. We'll start over here. Okay, this has got a couple attached to it. We'll go with the more less violent one, but I'll give you both. This is 4 curious elephants examining an orange, right? The more like slightly violent one is the 4 hunters going after the same gopher hole. This is a daddy long legs doing a handstand. Okay. This one is a clam with buck teeth, or it is a football with a picture window. You can take your pick. And by the way, none of these are right or wrong. They are all correct. This, of course, as you know, we got from May, it is a rainbow with 4 pots of gold, so it's a greedy one. Alternatively, it is a earthworm wearing roller skates. And this one is, in fact, an elephant stepping on a pea, or if you like, an elephant giving an ant a very friendly pat on the back. This is one of my favorites. This is either a donut that has been fixed, or it is a plate of spaghetti served by a very neat waiter. Okay. This is another good one. Just if you choose to use these, I would just name these, and people kind of dig it. This is a ship arriving too late to save a drowning witch. Okay. This one, you could, again, none of these are wrong. This one happens to be a butterfly doing jump rope. Okay. Okay, I love this one. This one's funny depending on how it's oriented. In this configuration, you have a trombone player in a telephone booth. Okay. If you were to flip it kind of upside down so that the arc is at the lower side, you have a diminutive trombone player standing in a telephone booth. And if you were to flip it sideways so that the arc is pointed upward, you have a dead trombone player. Okay. This one, I love this one. This is the inside of Napoleon's jacket. Okay. From the view of inside Napoleon's jacket. This is the one that I drew a second ago. Some people will say TIE fighter. I like to say this one is a tomato sandwich served by a lazy tomato sandwich cook. A superstitious giraffe throwing salt over his shoulder. A man wearing a bow tie who stood too close to the elevator doors. A flying saucer traffic jam. View of the Eiffel Tower from the inside of an armored car. Broken pencil tip. Toothbrush for newlyweds. Side view of a fried egg. Okay, and I think that's just about all we have. So that one's called Droodles. Okay. That's back-to-back drawing and Droodles. You get a twofer for that one. All right, let's do another one. This one's going to be a little kinesthetic. This one's going to get some movement involved. Okay, so you can stand up if you want to. You can follow along with me. Actually, let's see. I do need somebody to help me out with this. So can I get another volunteer? Again, I promise I will not shame you. You're going to look like $1,000,000. This is going to be great. I need somebody to go off mute for this one. Who do I have? Amazing. Mary Jo, you're my person. Okay. So here's how this is going to go. Yeah, you're going to stand up, and everybody else, you can follow along like with Mary Jo. All right. So don't like pretend I'm your partner. Mary Jo's actually going to be the one doing it. She'll be your voice on this one. In the room, you would have people partner up. Okay, but just for virtual, we'll do it this way. So Mary Jo, this is really easy. I'm going to say 1. You're going to say 2. I'm going to say 3. And then we'll go back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. 1,
2,
3. Nope.
1,
I do the 3. There we go. 1, 2,
3,
1,
2,
3,
1,
2,
3,
1,
2.
3. Okay, this is a lot harder than it looks. Trust me. Okay. And by the way, if you doubt that, just, you can stay on mute, but do Mary Jo's role. All right. So Mary Jo, here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch it up a little bit. In lieu of saying 1, we're going to clap. Okay. So for example, I'm going to do 2. Nope. So, all right. Don't clap. It's like, we're just replacing the 1 with a clap. That's it.
Right.
That's all we're doing. So
2,
3, 2,
3, 2,
3, 2.
3.
Got it. Okay, amazing. Now we're going to stomp in lieu of the 2. So it's going to go 3. Got it?
Right.
All right. So 3,
3.
3. Amazing. Okay. We got that one.
Yep.
Now we're going to switch up the 3, and instead of 3, we're going to do jazz hands. So show me jazz hands. There you go. So, all right, here we go. Okay, and big hand for Mary Jo. Mary Jo was amazing. Thank you very much. That was awesome. That was great. Whew, that one is called clap, stomp, jazz hands. It's a kinesthetic one. It gets people up, it gets them moving around, right? Okay. Why would we do that one? What are some of the behaviors that you're having people draw on for that one? What are we modeling with that one? And feel free to go off mute and just name it. Mary Jo, what did you have to do in order to do that one successfully?
I had to really think.
Yeah, tell me about the really thinking. I mean, clapping, stomping, jazz hands, that's pretty easy, right? Why'd you have to really think about it?
I had to figure out where we were in the numbers and then which was I was going to do next.
Okay. Cool. I mean, were you thinking about your grocery list at the moment?
No.
No, like completely present there in the
Totally.
moment, engaged, like totally focused on what was going on. Okay. Why? All right. Like, so question for the bigger group. Why might we want to do clap, stomp, jazz hands? Karen, what do you got?
Two things. It made me think about you have to focus. So it might be a way of getting people where they're focusing again. But the other thing is you really have to pay attention to the other person.
Yes. So there's you're absolutely dialed into the other person. Mary Jo, you had 110% of my attention. That was all we were doing, right? Like it was you and me, and we were back and forth. So modeling presence, modeling the partnership, the handoff, the back and forth, the I do something, you do something, the yes and of improv is a part of that, right? And all of those things we need if we're doing things like even brainstorming. So Alex Osborne, the guy who invented brainstorming, yes, it had an inventor. He said build on the ideas of others, and this is a good way to model that, okay? Now, I wanted to show you clap, stop, shimmy. I'm sorry, it used to be clap, stop, shimmy. We got some feedback that that's a little inappropriate to do a shimmy, so we switched it up. Now it's clap, stop, jazz hands, right? We're like, I don't know about the shimmy. So it's clap, stop, jazz hands. We changed it. The reason I wanted to show you clap, stop, jazz hands is not only is it a good kinesthetic icebreaker to get people up, energizer to get people up, and to model behavior, it checks all of the boxes. And this is a good opportunity to show you where many energizers go wrong on the part of the facilitator. Here's where I see them screw it up. They do something like this. Okay, we're going to have you do this thing. It's called clap, stomp, jazz hands. We're going to have you up, and you're going to have to move, and it's going to feel really awkward, and you're going to be embarrassed, but let's just try to power through it, right? Okay, you're done. Like you've just lost all of your connection in the room, okay? Don't explain it to death. Definitely don't tell people that they're going to be embarrassed or they're going to be shamed because they're like, ugh, I don't want anything to do with it. They're already on edge because they're in a new space, right? The worst thing that you can do is to say, okay, this is going to be embarrassing. Just own it. You are a facilitator. You have a sacred right in the room. People are trusting you to guide them through this process, whatever it is. And so you can have your group do just about anything you want to if you show up with confidence and presence and you say, hey, all right, everybody up. We're going to start with an energizer. All right, pick a partner. Mary Jo, we're going to model this. I'm going to say 1, you're going to say 2, we're going to say 3, and we'll go back and forth like that. You just do it. Don't overly explain it. Jump into the space. Own it. That's number 1 with all of these energizers, right? Come into it without shame and without hedging. Just do that. Own that stuff. All right. How are we doing? Still doing good? All right. I think we've got time for a few more. Let's do this one. This one's kind of fun. Okay. So this one I got from Dean Myers, who is one of my best friends and mentors. All right. So we're going to start with a simple shape. Okay. Like that. And you're going to follow along. I'm going to draw. You're going to follow along with me. So we're going to start with a simple shape, like a kidney bean. Okay. And then we're going to add just like a bare minimum to that. Okay. Zakiya is going to guess this one right away. It's Zakiya if you're around. Get ready to shine. Okay. What is this thing? What could this be? And, just feel free to go off mute. What do you got?
It's a cow.
Steer.
It's a cow. All right. So what else could it be? Julie?
A steer.
A steer. All right. So you guys are in the same ballpark. So it's a cow. It could be a steer. Right. Exactly. So you model this and then you turn it over to pairs and you say, all right, what we want you to do is starting with a simple shape, add just 1 or 2 distinguishing lines of anything that you could possibly think of. Okay. And then the other person has to guess what it is. So, we'll do another one. Actually, I'll tell you what, let's do this a little bit differently. I want one of you to like privately message me. So go over to chat, okay? You're going to chat only to Brian, and anybody who wants to can do this. Just give me an object of any kind, okay? So find your way to chat. I'll do the first one that I see that pops up. Pick an object of any kind, okay? Doesn't matter which. Privately message me, and I'll see if I can't make this one work. So far, nobody sent me anything. So hit enter. Okay. Usually this works. Nope, nobody wants to send me anything. Or maybe it's this new thing with Zoom. I can't tell.
I can't see how to.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I got one from Ak. Okay, Ak gave me one. I got one. Okay. So as soon as you know what it is, just go ahead and name it. No?
A cat.
Yeah, got it. Amazing. May, that was great. All right, how'd you know it was a cat?
There are whiskers.
There's whiskers, exactly. All right, so Ak, thank you for that. May, thank you very much for that. Okay, this one is called Draw a Cow. It starts with, modeling, drawing a cow. And then, you have people pick a minimum, pick a simple object and then draw it. Why, I'm going to go to you guys on this one. Why might we want to have people do this one in the room? What did you have to draw on? So May, you can speak to it if you want to. What are your participants going to have to do behaviorally in order to make this one work? Any thoughts?
I mean, stay engaged and show curiosity.
Yep. Stay engaged, show curiosity, be there with the person. It's like, okay, what could this be? Like filling in the gaps, doing some sense making, not having it doesn't have to be like a perfect thing in order for me to create a mental model for what it might be. And if we're doing something like strategic planning, where it's like, okay, I don't know what it means to engage the workforce. Well, okay, we're figuring that out. We're going to have to fill in some gaps here. Okay. The other thing that engages, and again, Zakiya is going to know this one, is that this is an example of what we call the MVP. Not minimum viable product, but minimum viable picture. What is the absolute fewest lines that I can do in order to get you to think cat? Okay, this is almost too much. May was able to get it just from the circle and the couple of angles on the side. So the reason we model the minimum viable picture is for that idea of modeling the modality. It's if we get them to draw later, right? If we have to have them drawing later, it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so that is Draw a Cow. We're going to do one of my favorite ones. Here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to just like silently pick somebody who's on this Zoom call. All right? Silently pick somebody who's on the Zoom call. And what I want you to do is to draw their face. Okay? So go ahead and grab your marker. You can, Julie's doing an amazing job of like modeling for you, but if you have to look down at your page, that's fine. So just do a quick sketch of the person's face. Okay? Doesn't have to be, high Renaissance art here. Okay. And then whenever you're ready, go ahead and show it off. Just go ahead and show it to the camera. Nice, May, thank you very much. You may want to turn off your background for that one so we can see it. Just a few more seconds, and then we'll see what you came up with. Very nice. Okay, wait, go back. I want to see May. Okay, cool. May, I'm guessing that you drew Julie. Is that right? Okay. So, Julie, you want to see it? May, did you miss it? That's amazing. That's really good. Okay, who else has got one? It can't be just May here. Come on, guys. What else you got? Karen, you have one? I'm guessing also drew Julie, maybe? Yeah, okay. Hermika? You ready?
This is terrible. Can you see that? That's canvas.
Yeah, that
These
looks
are
great.
half-tones, and I had like little zzz coming out of it.
That's amazing. Okay, I think, and Karen's
And a
laughing.
smiley face.
That's so good. That's so good. Who was I trying to draw? Anybody? Oh, you're not gonna be able to guess it?
Mary Jo.
That was Mary Jo. You get like, yeah, there's two clues. I've got glasses and long hair. It was either, all right, it's either Julie or Mary Jo. I probably should have drawn like the spirals, around you like that. Okay, so this is draw your partner. Now, traditionally you do this in the room. You have people pair up and they look at each other and, you draw like face-to-face looking at each other in pairs. A little different when you're doing this on Zoom. This is another one that comes from Bob McKim from the Stanford D School. And this is draw your partner's face. Okay. I like the other one. I got this one from Casey. Why might you want to do this one? Why draw your partner's face? What does this do for you? Any thoughts? May?
Empathy and connection.
Yeah, empathy, connection. Yeah, it's also modeling the modality, so you're getting people to make marks on paper. This is part of that vulnerability thing at the very beginning. Like, okay, none of these were high art. Okay, Karen, were you offended by the picture that was drawn of you that Hermika did? No, of course not, right? And so, Hermika, when she sees that, it's like, I heard Hermika say when she was drawing, oh, this is terrible, right? But, that's our own judgment. When people actually see this stuff that we've created, they are delighted. Okay, I have never seen on the back end, see, that wasn't like me. Nobody is that cruel. Okay. It's that what we want to get people to do is to put themselves out there, to be more generative, to be more creative, and to say, let's get your ideas out there. This is a good way of kind of breaking through that ice. Okay. Let's do a related one to this one. We've got time for just a couple more. I would be remiss if I didn't do this one just because I love it so much. Another one from Casey Creech. He's amazing. I'd like you to draw your worst haircut. Okay? Grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to draw your worst haircut. Don't worry, I will do the same thing. Let's go to it. Draw your worst haircut, folks. And this is a quick one. Don't spend more than just a couple of seconds on it. A few more seconds before we're done. Okay, just a few more seconds, and whenever you're ready, go ahead and show your worst haircut. Hermika, what do you got? Okay, Julie's got one. Mary Jo, that's amazing. I think that one needs to come back. Okay, so I'm gonna encourage you to, let's just pick whoever wants to. If you're off mute, Hermika, I saw you first, and then May. Talk about your worst haircut. So Hermika, go. Tell me about your haircut.
Oh, this is the worst haircut because I started cutting it myself with kitchen scissors, and then someone else had to fix it, and it's a geometry class on the top of my head.
That's amazing. How old were you when you did that?
I think I was 13.
Good one. Okay. Yeah. May, you want to go next? I think I saw you off mute.
I mean, my story is almost the same. I went and took house scissors, and I was just trying to trim my bangs, but I trimmed them like out to here, and then we had to go to the salon and get it leveled up all the way around. Oh.
Amazing. Thank you,
Me
May.
too.
Oh, look at that. That's great. Okay. In my case, let me just say that I think I was about 14, and at the moment, like Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer were huge at the time. I did have the mullet. I did have the ridges cut right here, and probably this is the result of my scalp rebelling at this moment. Okay. All right. This is dangerously close to share your embarrassing moment, right? So why would we want to? Why would we want to say draw your worst haircut? What's why in God's name would you have a group do this if you're trying to build trust? Any thoughts?
We were actually at work just talking about doing blameless retros, and I didn't like that term because I was like,
Yes.
even by calling it a blameless retro, you're bringing in the idea of blame, and so was trying to think around that. But this could be a hilarious way to just start a retro of like with vulnerability and some fun, and then sometimes we have a bad haircut, and let's get a better one next time. So
Sometimes you have a bad haircut. We'll get a better one next time. I love it. Thank you, May. Why else might you want to do something? Of course, we're modeling the modality of making marks on paper. You're getting people used to drawing. Another reason that, oh, okay, Hermika, you got one? Go for it.
I said connection and relatability. Who knew that May and I had a very similar experience with kitchen scissors, and then we had to, just cut everything off. So that's something that brings us together.
Yeah, so you find like commonalities that are there. Mary Jo, anything?
It's funny. I mean,
It's super
it's
funny.
hysterical how people like draw it because it's not present, it's in the past, ideally. And it just kind of adds to that connection piece.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, for all the reasons, this is one that it adds to that connection, as Mary Jo said. We're going to do one more. I would be remiss if I didn't do this one. And let me talk about it. So let's, okay, this doesn't want to go where I wanted to. Hold on. We go into these things with an attitude of wonder, as in I wonder what's going to break today. And today it looks like it's going to be my JPEG viewer. All right, there it is. Finally. Got to drag it way over here and then hit the button. There we go. All right. Let's do this. So I would like you to just mentally pick a picture. Okay. Don't overthink it. Just one that you're drawn to. Just mentally pick a picture. They're labeled 1 through 12. Again, don't overthink it. A picture that, is just like, okay, this is my picture. I like it. I'm drawn to it. It doesn't have to be any deeper than that. Now that you've got it, what I'd like you to do is to draw a connection, and not physically. Like, I want you to like mentally think of a connection. How does that picture represent your practice as a visual practitioner, either as a graphic recorder, visual facilitator, traditional facilitator, whatever that is? How does that picture represent your practice as a facilitator? And as soon as you've got it, I'll encourage you to go ahead and go off mute and talk about your picture. So who's got one? How does that picture represent your practice? Who's got one? Feel free to go off mute. Karen.
Yeah. Thanks. So I chose number 1. And I think it was because I was drawn to that because I feel like I need that kind of calm and serenity today. But in terms of my practice, for me, it's a reminder to be still and balanced.
Nice.
And I need to remind myself of that when I'm
So
doing the work.
Thank you. So being still and balanced, I appreciate it. Just because we have less than a second left, this, of course, is a variation on the Center for Creative Leadership's Visual Explorer. Okay. You can get Visual Explorer. They've got a bunch of cards. Traditionally, you just spread them all out all over the room. The way that you're supposed to do it is you do the prompt first and then have people pick the image that relates to the prompt. I like to do it the other way around. Pick the image and then give them the prompt. And you're like, Brian, how does that work? Well, it works based on the way that our brains actually work. We actually decide and then justify. So we judge and then analyze. Okay. A lot of people think that we don't do it that way, that we actually, we come up with some good reasons and then we make a decision. We actually don't do it that way. So we're talking about sense making with this one. Your prompt can be just about anything. An image that represents your story, your leadership style, your personal vision, your organizational culture. I like to do a before and after. An image that represents your organization culture now. An image that represents your organizational culture of what it will be or what you'd like it to be. Your core values, your desired state challenges. Okay. So again, you can get any images that you want to. I know a lot of people that just cut images out of magazines. It's perfectly okay. Here's a little bit of inside baseball. One way that you can do this, the way that I like to do it, is if you happen to get yourself a copy of Apples to Apples, the big picture edition. There are these little cards, and you get hundreds of these images for, I don't know, something like 20 bucks, which is cheap enough that, you know, it's like, hey, if you'd like to keep the image, you can keep the image. Can't really do that with Visual Explorer. That thing is expensive. Okay. Thank you very much for attending. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. This was Energizers for Retooling You. We are going to have another Retooling You starting in just about 30 minutes at 4 o'clock. We're going to be looking at openers, which is to say all of the ways that you can bring ideas into the room. Hope you'll stick around for that one. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And if you want to stick around for a minute for the after party, let's do it.